it's Paige from the Helen Schuler Nature Center. Welcome back to another Home Eco Challenge. This week we're talking about wind. This is the Windy City after all, so stick around and we'll talk about what is wind. It's the Natural Leaders Project Home Eco Challenge. All right, everybody, so I just got back from 6 Mile Coulee. I went out there first thing this morning to get all kinds of really amazing shots for you and to film some good clips. And when I got back, I looked over all of them, which I should have done when I was there. And basically, perhaps somewhat ironically, it was too windy. So all of the footage is just like me talking like this in the background and then the wind kind of screaming in the microphone. So who cares? We'll move on. Life will move on. So I'm just going to re-record. Anyway, the point is, the reason why I'm telling you this is because I put a lot of good effort in. There were some really quality grade A shots, and I mean, they are no more. Rest in peace, sweet, sweet shots. But fittingly, sometimes that's how wind works. So this week we're talking all about wind. Which I'm on a personal mission to also help us or to focus this week's learning anyway on kind of improving our relationship with the wind. My assumption being that sometimes we don't all give the wind the credit it maybe deserves. Yes, everybody? So this week it's all about wind. We're going to talk about what wind is, how we can make wind work for us, and then we're even going to write a love song about it. It's gonna be beautiful. Well, a love poem with some choreography and dancing. More on that later though. Let's get this big juicy question out of the way first. What is wind? Well, wind is a force. A force that's caused by the movement of air. Or if you want to get technical, the movement of gases that make up our air. So what causes this air to move? Well, it's actually all about pressure in the atmosphere. What we call atmospheric pressure. And so changes in the pressure of gases in the atmosphere actually change the characteristics of those gases and cause them to do different things. So as gases in the atmosphere get warmer because of sunlight or topography or whether or not there is a body of water present, as the air in the atmosphere warms up, it rises. I mean, you've probably heard of warm air rising, yes? So as that gas kind of warms up, it becomes a lower pressure gas, and so that causes it to become kind of lighter and it starts to rise up. Now, it doesn't just leave like a vacuum down here. No. Cooler air with higher pressure that causes it to be a little bit denser actually rushes in to fill its place. And as this warm air rises and this cool air rushes in to fill its place, you end up having a little air current. All right, so let's look at a Chinook as an example. So this all starts with warm air over the Pacific Ocean in British Columbia. So water takes longer to heat up and cool down than air does. So land near large bodies of water, for example, the Pacific Ocean, tend to maintain a more consistent and stable temperature, which is why BC, is not it doesn't have the extreme winters and the extreme summers that we do. It's more consistent. So over BC, this generally warm air has the characteristic that warm gases do because the air is, of course, made up of gases. So warmer gases are less dense, and this means that there's more space in between those gas particles, so this makes them seem lighter or floofier and generally more buoyant, so they rise up. Warm air also is really, really good at holding on to moisture. So this warm air is full of clouds and moisture from the ocean. And it's come on, guys, let's go. And it starts to rise. So as the air rises over the mountains, however, it begins to cool down. Now this cooler air no longer has the ability to hold on to all that moisture. So it's sorry, buds, release. And so it releases all of that moisture in the form of snow and rain in the mountains. So now you got a bunch of cold, dry air with no more of its like rain or snow buddies sitting at the top of the mountain, and it actually becomes more dense because it's colder, and so it starts to sink, and so it comes down the eastern slopes of the Rockies and into Alberta. Now as it's moving downward, it actually begins to get warmer. What? Yes, and that's because as cool air descends, it actually gets warmer. So what you're left with is a warm, swift wind rushing into Alberta in the form of a Chinook. Phew. All right, so your first activity is to try to draw your own diagram explaining how wind works in your notebooks. All right, so now that we know what wind is, let's talk about measuring wind. Now, generally speaking, here in southern Alberta, wind comes in from the west, which makes sense based on what we talked about. So here in Lethbridge, however, or in any kind of urban setting, we build a lot of buildings and structures and bridges and all kinds of stuff that actually help to channel and funnel wind into kind of other directions. So even though, yes, generally speaking, wind is coming in from the west, maybe in your yard, wind isn't quite so simple and straightforward. It could be a little bit more complex. So that's the first thing we're going to talk about is direction of wind. The second thing is speed of wind. So actually, how fast is that wind going? Now, this impacts all kinds of things, like what you're going to wear in a day, or kind of the plans that you're making, or some of the kind of backup plans you might have to make as well. Measuring wind is also really good for generally understanding seasonal changes, or kind of if different weather systems are coming in. So generally being able to measure wind in your own home actually can come in handy, especially if you learn how to pay attention and figure out actually how to read wind. Make it your friend, like make it a useful tool that helps you better understand the day and the world around you. So we're going to actually create wind measuring tools. Now, the first one we're going to make, and I'm actually going to do it two first, so I'm going to make this as well, and I'm going to make them both together, so it's like only one object, is an anemometer, which measures speed of wind, and a weather vane, which measures direction. Now, I thought about making an anemometer and a wind vane on camera so you could see kind of how I do that, but I actually thought, no, I want to take some time and do a good job of this, because I actually want this tool for my home, and I want it to be long lasting and sturdy. So I'm going to take a bit more time to make it, which extends beyond my ability to capture it in this video. But I will show you some pictures, and I'll talk a little bit about what an anemometer is and what a wind vane is and how you can make one. All right, so this here fancy machine is called an anemometer. So anemometers are used to measure wind speed. Now you'll notice that this has little cups on it, and those cups actually capture the wind, and the wind pushes them forward, causing them to spin. So you'll see one of these actually has a red cup, and that's so that you can clearly see the one red one spinning around. Essentially, how you measure the speed of the wind is by seeing how many times those little cups spin around 360 degrees. Now, you can also get like more technical or kind of digital anemometers, but that's a little more complicated than what we're going to be doing. Although you certainly can purchase one. They have sensors in them and different things that allow you to actually like officially and scientifically and mathematically gauge how fast the wind is moving. For the purposes of our experiment, or our kind of like activity though, all you need to do is kind of make something that can spin around and that you can identify how quickly it's spinning around. You can do this precisely by measuring how many rotations in, say, 10 seconds, and then doing the math to see how many rotations that is in a minute, and then gauging that to understand how quickly the wind is moving. But you can also really just look at anemometers and get a general sense. Hey, that thing's spinning around like a top. I'm guessing it's pretty windy out there. Or maybe it's moving more slowly and you can think like, oh yeah, okay, there's a bit of a breeze. How cute.
All right, now these bad boys are called weather vanes. Now they usually consist of some kind of arrow that points the direction that the wind is going. And they're usually actually affixed to a compass. So you'd set up the compass so that whatever direction is north, you'd have the north facing part of the compass facing that direction. And then the arrow is actually free to move around as it pleases. So the compass stays in place, but the arrow spins. Now, the arrow is aerodynamic and it is designed in such a way that it actually will always kind of line up with the direction of the wind.
Now, you can use all kinds of materials to make a wind vane or an anemometer. Some really simple basic ones you can use, like pencils, a thumbtack, and paper, essentially. And those will work great. And those are really good at kind of helping you just like figure out actually how they work. The kind of level up from that is if you actually want to use these things outside, you can make them out of more weather resistant materials, things like metals or plastics, wood, those kinds of things. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make like a super duper outdoor, hardy, all weather, all season, an anemometer and wind vane for my house, using things like, I'll use definitely some wood, and I have some leftover like pipes from redoing some plumbing at my house. So I'm going to use those materials to actually make mine. Make sure you put it in a place where it has kind of unfettered access to the wind, and where it is safe. And where you can still see it and observe it from a convenient location. Ideally, put it in a place that you can see from inside your home so that in the morning, as you're getting dressed or whatever, you can actually look outside and be like, what's the wind action going on today here now? And then make decisions accordingly. So fun fact, behind the college where you can actually access the 6 Mile Coulee trails, there is the wind turbine facility, which is like an amazing, massive building where you actually can be trained to be a wind turbine technician, which is somebody who fixes and maintains wind turbines, which is just the coolest. Suffice it to say, there is a really cool like chunk of a wind turbine blade behind the college. Here's a picture of it. I definitely recommend that next time you're snooping around there, or maybe if you go to 6 Mile Coulee, go and check it out. Go see if you can find this like chunk of wind turbine blade. It's really cool, and it gives you a good sense of the scale of wind turbines. That said, that is a smaller wind turbine blade than you might usually see. So that's not even kind of as big as it gets, and that's just like the elbow of one blade, which is really extraordinary. They're huge, is what I'm saying. They're crazy big. It's massive. And they generate a lot of energy. I definitely recommend that you get on the old YouTube while you are there right now. That's how you're watching this. But that you check out like different videos of turbine techs, like mending or fixing broken wind turbine blades, like crazy GoPro footage of them like walking on the blades. It's crazy. At least it freaks me out because I don't like heights. I respect heights, if you know what I mean. But anyway. So, I don't know if I'm gonna blow your mind here, but this place is pretty windy. It's true. Now, Lethbridge is a windy place, and it kind of always has been, at least for a very long time, and it likely will continue to be for a very long time into the future. And actually some, as I had talked about last week during Waterworld, some climate modeling is predicting that there will be increases in kind of wind activity here in this region. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that all of the things that live in this place have had to adapt to wind over time. They've adapted different techniques that actually help them use the wind. For example, the coyote uses wind as a tool to carry scent, to help it hunt. One adaptation of plants is to actually create these light, fluffy seeds that actually can flow on the wind, allowing wind to actually work for the plant and carry its seeds forth into the world. One example of wind working for us our wind turbines. We actually harness the power of the wind to create electrical energy, which is extraordinary. In terms of other kind of human adaptations around wind, I love to talk about traditional Blackfoot lodges or teepees. They're an excellent example of how to design something to actually embrace the wind as opposed to like working against it. The traditional kind of like conical shape of a teepee is an amazing kind of like wind skirt. It essentially allows wind to move past it, whereas a lot of the kind of modern European style buildings are just a series of like edges and corners and lips and overhangs. All of these things are basically places for wind to grab onto and yank. So when we think about building design, instead of, complaining about, well, the wind is, causing damage to my building, well, think, how am I designing this space in this world to actually fit into the environment in which it exists? So I guess in sum, what I'm saying is, how can you make wind work for you? How can we start to construct a world and to construct a perspective and a state of mind that embraces the natural kind of characteristics of this landscape, including the wind that actually helps to form these amazing coulee systems, and all of the kind of wonderful adaptations of the plants and the animals in this place. Wind is not going anywhere. It's here to stay. So for the third activity for today, we are going to begin a long and beautiful friendship with the wind. Now, maybe you already have a good friendship with the wind, a long and fruitful friendship. Maybe you don't like the wind. Maybe you and the wind, you guys have not been getting along. Well, don't worry. No matter the state of your relationship with wind, today we embark together on a beautiful expression of respect and love. So the first thing I want you to do, I want you to go out on the windiest day. Find the windiest place you can, maybe the edge of a coulee, maybe your yard. I don't know, maybe on your deck. Maybe you have one of those like west-facing decks where it's just like the prow of the Titanic. Anyway, so I want you to go to the windiest place you can find, and I want you to dance. I want you to feel the wind. I want you to let it speak to your soul, speak to your body, and feel the force of that wind and do some kind of like silly, modern dance, deconstructed body movements, if you will. I am dead serious about this. So I want you to head out to the windiest spot. I want you to dance in the wind. I want you to embrace it. I want you to find a way to have just a moment where you and the wind are feeling each other. All right? So that's step number one. If you can, not for the whole time, because it's not a show. I really want you to like embrace the wind and kind of like have a personal moment. After that, I want you to try to capture a little bit of a video of you dancing in the wind and send that to me, because if enough people send me little video clips of them dancing in the wind, I'm going to actually make like a music video about it, and I'll put it up on the YouTube here. So definitely send along your video clips of you dancing in the wind, and I'll make you YouTube famous to the extent that I can. The second thing I want you to do is actually create a poem for the wind. A love poem. Or one that helps you express kind of your respect for the wind. If you don't love the wind, that's okay. We can't go from 0 to 60 here. It's baby steps. Find some things that you respect about the power of the wind, or kind of like the beauty of, a breeze on a hot day. So find something that you like about the wind, and I want you to write a poem about it. So find some way of communicating some heartfelt, happy feels or respectful feels about the wind. Once again, if you feel comfortable, send me some of the poem or all of the poem that you write, and I will try to incorporate bits of your like words or lyrics or parts of your poem into this love song music video dancing wind thing that I have schemed up here. I want you to dance in the wind, feel it, embrace it. And then if you can, send me a video clip of you doing so. And then write a poem for the wind, a love poem, my dears, or at least a respectful appreciation poem for the wind. And send me pieces of that too if you feel comfortable doing so. This may sound silly. I may sound like a nut job. That's fine. also not surprising. But essentially what I'm trying to get at here is that we need to embrace the wind. It is a fundamental part of the place that we live in. And it's something that basically I want us to collectively improve our relationship with the wind. Because I, for one, am getting sick of people complaining about it. I'm sick of complaining about it. I don't want to fight the wind anymore. I want to be one with the wind. Or at least I want it to be on my side. I want to find a way to live with the wind in harmony and peace. All right, you guys, that's it for this week. So thank you for joining me. This is a really quick week. It's a short one. I thought it'd be nice to give you some time, not to necessarily watch more videos, but to spend the time making your anemometer, making your wind vane, writing your poem, and getting your little buggy in with the wind. So I'll see you guys next week. I believe we're talking about the sun. Yeah. So stay tuned for that, and I hope you guys have a really amazing week. Ciao!